This video will go over the DSIM-SG Smart AGC setup for Cisco SA style amplifiers. After a few installations, you will find the DSIM setup is very easy and it is the most reliable AGC to work with, backed by our 5-year warranty. The DSIM can hold levels steady in the most extreme temperature swings, and you will not need to return for seasonal rebalancing. Remove the cover and swap out the old AGC with the DSIM-SG, then replace the RF cover and torque screws the spec. The LED on the DSIM will be blinking a steady blue, indicating that it is in manual mode. Remove the manufacturer specified AGC JXP pad and replace it with a 0 dB value JXP pad. Plug the controller cable into the DSIM, then plug the controller into the cable. After flashing red and blue for 3 seconds, the controller LED will turn to solid blue. If it is not solid blue, press the mode button once or twice until it is solid blue. Place the S1 switch into position 2, then set the input levels to system design specifications. Max out the gain with the manual reserve gain pot. Back off the manual reserve gain by 4 dB at 750 MHz or 4.5 dB at 870 MHz. Place the S1 switch into position 3 to enable the DSIM. Note that the DSIM is still in manual mode, as indicated by both LEDs. The DSIM won't actually enter AGC mode until you tell it to do so by using the mode button on the controller. Before switching over to AGC mode, you may need to make an extreme temperature adjustment if you are setting up the amp in extreme hot or extreme cold conditions. In these conditions, you should adjust the alignment of the DSIM with the amplifier's bode circuit to allow for optimal gain control performance. You can do this by using the controller's plus or minus buttons to increase or decrease the gain based on the current ambient temperature surrounding the cable going into the amplifier. For example, looking at this chart, you can see that if it were above 100 degrees outside, you would use the plus button on the controller to increase the level on your meter at the highest operating frequency by 2 dB. Conversely, if it were below 20 degrees outside, you would use the minus button to decrease by 2 dB. If the temperature is between 40 and 80 degrees, you do not need to make an adjustment. If you have made an adjustment, make sure to rebalance your amplifier to system design spec using padding and/or equalization as you normally would. If you haven't made an adjustment, you still want to be sure to check that your amp is balanced to spec before switching over to AGC mode. Now that the amp is properly set up, simply press the mode button once to go from manual to AGC mode. The align process will take about 30 to 45 seconds. When done, the LED on the controller will blink blue, indicating the DSIM is now in AGC mode. The LED on the DSIM itself will flash the channel number pattern followed by 1 slow blink for analog or 2 slow blinks for QAM. Remove the controller from the cable, then remove the cable from the DSIM. The setup is now complete. This LED color coding chart can be helpful for your first few installations. On the left is a list of color codes that appear on the DSIM LED, and on the right are the color codes that appear on the controller LED. Notice that the DSIM has a third mode, which is a thermal compensation mode. It is helpful to know that this mode is available, which you will know you are in when seeing a pinkish purplish light on the controller LED. Most systems prefer to always set the DSIM into AGC mode rather than thermal, since the AGC mode provides a more precise gain control. If the DSIM is set into AGC mode and the pilot channel is ever lost, the DSIM will automatically switch to this thermal compensation mode and automatically return to AGC mode once the pilot channel is restored. Sometimes bode circuits go bad, so testing older bodes is good practice. If you opt to test a bode on an amp, we recommend performing the test right before the extreme temperature adjustment and switching to AGC mode. Make sure your input level is close to spec when performing the test. To test the bode range, use the plus and minus buttons on the controller. At 750 MHz to 870 MHz, you should be able to increase the gain upward by about 4 to 5 dB and downward by about 6 to 7 dB. The full range should be about 10 to 11 dB. When done, you can simply press the mode button 3 times to cycle through the 3 modes, AGC to thermal and back to manual. The bode will reset to the original level it was at before the bode test, as you will see clearly on your meter. If the bode is bad, you should replace the amp. After completing this test, continue to the extreme temperature adjustment procedure described earlier in the video.